Hey guys, in today's story, an entitled grocery store Karen steals 5 shopping carts worth of goods and food from my shop and then orders her entitled kids to attack me when I confront them. Here is what happens when you steal something in an American supermarket. So I own a grocery store in my town, and unlike the majority of places nowadays, it's not some giant corporate-owned entity. And well, it's not a tiny mom-and-pop store either that just has a few old shelves with things on it. I mean, that was how I had to start out, but by now I had a bigger building that looked just as good as any big-named store. The biggest difference is that for them, theft is not that big of a deal as it is for me. When I lose money, it affects me directly instead of being like a drop in the bucket. Still, theft is part of owning a store, and I don't really believe there's any way to avoid it. No matter the cameras I install or attentive workers I hire, people are gonna sneak things into pockets and walk out without paying for them. Most of the time, it is just small things like a candy bar or a small bag of chips. Nothing that is gonna cause major damage to me. However, there's a woman named Karen who I knew from just living in the area. She had 5 kids, and if the rumors were right, none of them had the same father. They were all menaces. Even the oldest 16-year-old acted more like a child. The kids had pretty much all been caught before trying to sneak things into their coat pockets and being forced to put it back. Nothing worth or warranting banning the family from the store though. And by the way guys, I don't know what the store policy is for other stores, but if I would have this store and I would find someone stealing, I would definitely ban them from the store immediately. But maybe other people are more forgiving than me, I don't know. Either way, I also knew that the mother was very entitled and liked to fight with employees no matter what store she went to. I had a policy in my store that if an employee felt uncomfortable with a shopper, to tell me and I would take over for them. When it came time for Karen to check out, I was getting a call from the cashier that she was feeling very nervous because of Karen. She was a new hire and Karen was trying to argue the prices and giving in coupons from other stores. I took over and managed to get through the checkout process without too much fuss. Just her huffing and claiming that we should honor other coupons and make things cheaper. I understand that food costs have been high lately everywhere and people get upset about it. When I finished and she had 5 carts filled to the brim with groceries, I finally told her what her total was. That comes out to $1,445. For those reading, it is not high because I overcharge. They just had a ton of stuff and some that was higher end type things like steak and seafood. Karen, oh you're funny. Kids, let's get going. She started to walk away with her kids, pushing the other carts behind her. Ma'am, you need to pay for your groceries. Karen, I assumed you were joking. You must be new here because the owner owes me the groceries for free. He said I could just check out and it would be taken care of. You need to pay. Karen, oh sure. I need to pay because if I don't, they will send me to prison over bread and milk, huh? She was laughing like the entire thing was a giant joke, and her kids were joining in. She didn't care that she was stealing or that it could hurt me in the long run. It was also clear that she didn't know that I was the owner of the store. I put my hand on her shoulder to try and reason with her that she had to either pay for the food or leave it behind. That was when she started yelling, Karen, assault! This employee is trying to assault me! Help, help! People started looking to see what was going on, and that was when one of her younger kids kicked me right where the sun does not shine. I went down like a bag of bricks while they ran out with the carts and got away. I had never actually been kicked there before, and it took ages for me to get off the floor and speak to the police that another employee had called. I explained to them that Karen stole all of those groceries and then had her kid attack me so they could get away. I knew who she was and the police were gonna track her down to get her side of the story. I was able to show the transaction that was never completed and camera footage showing me getting kicked in the crown jewels. I found out that the police knew this family too, especially the oldest son who was close to ending up in juvenile detention anyway. I would have to sue her separately to get the money for the groceries back because all the police could do was arrest her for theft. I spent the rest of the day in the back room resting and applying ice. My next update came a day later when I was informed Karen was arrested for the theft but was trying to claim that I had assaulted her again. I had the video proof that I didn't do anything, which prevented me getting arrested as well. It did not help her case that upon being arrested, she was also crying assault for being handcuffed and her kids tried to fight the police for her. It was not just her but the entire lot that was getting arrested for attacking police and assisting her with the theft. I wish I would have been there to see it all happen. It would have been better than any movie I had seen in my entire life. A mother and her 5 kids getting arrested. Either way, I had to get a lawyer and file a civil suit in order to get my money back from her. That went pretty quickly since I had the proof. She was still claiming that the owner promised her free groceries, and I got to see the look on her face when she learned from the lawyers that I was the owner of the store. And I never promised her anything. I got the full amount of money for the groceries granted to me, as well as the cost of the 5 shopping carts she had stolen. They found them at her house totally destroyed. For her criminal case, I followed it the best I could, but I know I have some pieces missing. When it comes to the minors, the law likes to keep things pretty tight from the public eye. The only reason I was able to find out anything was because I was a witness for the part that happened within the store. She was going to jail for the theft, but more importantly for attacking police. From what I managed to hear, she was uncooperative the entire time. As for the kids, I found out the fate of 3 of them, the oldest 3 to be exact. The 16-year-old, due to past issues, was going to juvie, the 2nd and 3rd were going to a kind of home that the best way I can describe would be something like pre-juvie. The last 2 were young enough to avoid getting in any actual trouble, and that is where I need to just guess. I don't know if their dads were in the picture, but they would end up maybe in a foster home. I feel bad for the kids needing to get caught up in everything. It's clear their mom was the problem and they just got a bad hand in life with her. Even the older ones, I hope, can turn their lives around and become better people. For Karen, I have no hope and I can only say I wish jail teaches her some valuable lessons. And yeah, ripe stars, for Karens there are a lot of lessons to be learned from this story. I mean, first of all, obviously, don't steal from stores, and then second of all, if you get caught, especially by the police, don't assault them. And also, don't kick the owner of the store in the crown jewels. Very bad idea. And yeah, ripe stars, if you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to like the video and maybe even subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. The next one is another revenge story. So my cousin was getting married, and not having ever been to a wedding at her denomination, I went to the wedding rehearsal to make sure that I knew what to expect. I arrived in the church's car park, quite a large lot, to see a man shouting at a police officer who was telling him that the police could not and would not get involved and he could always seek a civil remedy. Having parked and being quite nosy, I take a closer look. A white van, a transit I recall, had been parked in the middle of the car park over several spaces, and from the lettering it belonged to a small builder. Now, this car park is clearly marked up as being private property and for church users only. Parked closely around the van, they blocked it in completely, where around 10 other cars. It was going nowhere. Being early, I entered the church and was greeted by the minister. We got to chatting as you do, and I asked him about the van. He told me that it belonged to a local builder who, over the course of several months, had acted as if the car park was his private property and would always park inconveniently for other users, and had been known to just dump building rubble along the back fence, leaving it for the church to clear away. Apparently, the minister had spoken to him and asked him to be respectful of his congregation, and had been rudely asked, what the F are you gonna do about it? Now, this church had a very good choir who every year went on a 2-week tour, and this year they were going to Germany to sing in other churches of their denomination. The minister had arranged for a minibus to pick the choir up from the church early that morning to take the singers to the airport. When the choir members arrived, he asked them to park all around the van and then cheerfully told the builder that they would be back in 2 weeks. As it was on private property, the police just wouldn't get involved. And yeah, ripe stars, I would say that was a church choir revenge category story. Anyway, the next one is titled Free Taxi. So this was a few years ago, roughly 4. I worked at an office about a 45-minute drive from my house, and I had a friend who worked in the office, and I would give a ride home to it was on my way, and I literally had to pass by her house to go to and from work, so it was no big deal. Well, a woman who worked in my office lived really close to her and found out about our arrangement, and she wanted in too. She then guilted my friend into asking me. Since it was on my way, I said okay. okay. Well, at the same time, my late husband's car was in the shop, so I would make a detour to pick him up, and he is a giant of a man, 6'3", and could not physically fit in the back, so to make things easier, my friend would just sit in the back. Well, the other woman, known as Karen, was a big woman, not tall, but big. On the way home, literally the first time she starts getting in the front, I explain to her that she has to sit in the back. Well, we get to my husband's job site and I park and text, and she jumps out of the car and gets into the front. I tell her to go back, and straight up she says no, because supposedly the seatbelt in the back is too tight, it hurts her chest. I tell her it's too bad, so she can get out if she doesn't like it. Well, she gets out and goes to the back seat, my husband gets there and climbs in. I start the car and the seatbelt warning light is on and beeping. She has the seatbelt off. I say, you need to put on the belt. I am met with a, no, I can't, it's easier if she's in the front. Well, I say, you're in the back, we're not going anywhere until the belt is on. She crossed her arms like a child and says, I guess we're not going anywhere. I tell her if she doesn't put the belt on, she can get out and walk home. With a nice bit of snark, she says, well, you can better call me a taxi then. That pissed me off, and that's what I did. I called a taxi. She puts her belt back on, but I say, it's too late, get out, you have a taxi coming. I say, you can get out of my car now, or the police will be happy to remove you. She gets out and her jaw almost hit the road as I drove away. Outside, my friend, I never let anyone from work in my car again. And yeah, Ripe Star, some people are just so ungrateful, so I can definitely understand where OP is coming from here. Anyway, the next one is an Am I the A-hole coworker story. I, 19 male, work in a small office. In November, a few of my coworkers organized a Secret Santa gift exchange for Christmas. It was optional, but most people joined in, so I did too, though I do not celebrate Christmas. I am ex-Christian, but I still celebrate the holiday season, and I thought it would be fun. One of the people who organized it is a woman I will call Jen, 50s female. She is a devout Christian, I know, because she had a lot of religious items on her desk and she's always saying religious stuff and talking about church. Soon after we all picked names for Secret Santa, she approached me and said that she was glad that I had joined in because it's nice to see young people getting involved in the spirit of Christmas. Then she asked if I would be going to mass for Christmas and I said no. She asked why and I told her that I'm actually ex-Christian, so I don't go to church. I don't think I was rude about it, but she started acting weird and said that I should not have joined Secret Santa because I was profiting off of other people's generosity in the celebration of Christ's birth. I didn't know what to say, so I said that I would be getting someone a gift too, of course, and I couldn't back out now because then one person wouldn't get anything. She said she would pray for me and left, and we didn't really interact after that. A few days before Christmas, we all were supposed to exchange our gifts. I gave the person I picked their gift and then I was waiting to receive mine. I did not know who picked me, of course, but eventually it seemed like everyone had gotten their gifts except me. Then Jen came over and said she was the one who picked my name, but since I did not believe in Christmas, there was no reason for her to get me a gift in celebration of it. I was honestly shocked, but she left before I could say anything. It did bother me a bit, but I decided to let it go because I didn't want any drama. Later though, I was talking to another coworker, Amy 22 female, and she asked me what I got, so I told her what happened with Jen. Amy said I should tell our supervisor about it because Jen has said similar things to a coworker of ours who is Muslim. I told her I didn't want to make a big deal out of the Secret Santa thing, and I thought we left it at that. However, after the holidays, our supervisor, Mark, 50s male, called me into his office and asked about what happened with Jen during the gift exchange. I did not want to lie to a supervisor, so I told him what she said, but also that it was not a big deal to me. It was just a present. He thanked me and said not to worry, but that this was connected to a greater trend in Jen's behavior and he would have to take action. Yesterday, I noticed Jen's desk was cleared out. I asked Amy about it and she said Jen had been fired. I feel bad because I did not care about getting a present that much and I don't think it's something that warrants getting someone else fired. I told my friend Sam, 19 male, about it and he said I should not have told Mark what Jen said because it was just a dumb disagreement between us, so I don't know, am I the a-hole? And yeah, Ripe Stars, let me know what you think about this in the comments, but I would say OP is definitely not the a-hole because it's not like he wanted Jen to get fired. It was pretty much just a series of coincidences, to be honest. Also, Jen was clearly the a-hole in the story. Anyway, someone in the comments said, not the a-hole, when people start waffling about the religious nature of Christmas, explain that yes, it's a pagan holiday and Constantine slapped some Jesus on it back in the day. Comment number 2, not the a-hole, what's to feel bad about? You did not press the issue and were ready to let it go. You were asked by your supervisor and you told the truth. Jen got herself fired clearly. Your supervisor even told you it was not the first time she pulled something like this in the name of her faith. You did not do anything wrong. Take it from an old man, behavior like this often escalates in the workplace once the offender has been shown they can get away with it. You had no obligation to protect someone like her, your friend is flat out wrong. And the next one is an Am I the a-hole story from our own subreddit r/ripe stories. It's titled Am I the a-hole for not allowing my 4-year-old son maternal side to meet him for the first time? Posted with permission by user watchlist34721. So I, 26 male, have a 4-year-old son, and for the backstory, my son has 2 genetic disorders discovered shortly after he was born. First, he has a rare eye disorder which he inherited from his maternal side. The second and more serious one is that he was diagnosed at 6 months old with cancer, which had already metastasized and moved to other parts of his body. At this point, he had not met anyone on the maternal side except his mom. When we gave them the news and asked them to come meet him before he started aggressive treatments, they all refused. Grandparents, aunts and uncles refused to come, most of them are within a couple hours drive of us. Thankfully, through treatment and surgery, my son survived, though he was in bad shape for over a year and still has cancer in full remission. Shortly before my son turned 2, his mom abandoned him and his older half-sister did for mental health reasons. I was incarcerated at this time for a short period of a few months, so my mom took the both of them in. She reached out to their maternal family and again she was rebuffed and told they were not interested in taking care of either child. After my release a couple months later, we moved to a different town, still local, but half an hour drive away. We've been doing good and are all well adjusted. My mom gained guardianship of the girl, 6, Disnii, and is moving to adopt her so she can remain with her brother and me as I'm her dad as far as she knows now. During the last 4 years, the maternal side of their family has not seen them or reached out until this week. I received a call on Snapchat and with as many people as I have on there, I answered assuming it was someone I knew. It turned out to be my son's aunt and grandma. After they told me who they were, I was put on guard as I don't know how they have my Snapchat to call me. I know they are not on my other social media, but they do have a text number that I used to reach out to them when I initially got out about asking them what they wanted us to do with Disnii. They made excuses and at one point suggested she go to foster care, which is notoriously bad in our state. They began to say how they want to see the kids and how they feel it is wrong that I've not made more of an effort to involve them in the kids' lives. This upset me as we tried a lot before giving up. They said they were in town and would be here in a few minutes. I told them great and that I would see them when they got there. I hung up and sat for a few minutes trying to make sense of the conversation. They had not wanted to meet my son when he was sick, as they said, we don't want to meet him just for him to die in a few months. Which really upset me and his mom at the time. Even after that though, I had tried to include them in the kids' lives, but to no avail, even after my son was finished with treatment and in full remission. And by the way guys, sorry to interject, but if I would have been in that situation and these people said something like this to me and my son, I would instantly cut them from my life absolutely forever. Who the hell makes such a statement? That is just cruel, inhumane and absolutely stupid. Anyway, about 15 minutes after I hung up on them, they called asking to be let in the apartment. I realized they had not even checked the messages sent to them telling them that we had moved to a house in another town over a year before. This made me pretty angry and I told them if they couldn't bother to check messages or even call and ask for the address before trying to show up, then clearly they were not interested in being involved with the kids as we had moved over a year before and that I had messaged all of them at the time telling them that we moved. They began to yell at me and demand the address and I refused. I told them that if they couldn't even read messages about the kids, then they couldn't see the kids too. I then said some pretty harsh things about how they treated my son when he was sick by refusing to meet him. After a few minutes of arguing, they hung up with thanks for wasting our time. It's been a few days and they posted about me on social media, which was seen by friends of mine who were friends with my son's mom. They claim that I invited them but intentionally gave them the wrong address and that for years I have kept the children from them. I still think, even days later, that I'm in the right to decide that they will not be in my son's life until he can make his own decision. Some of my friends, though, even after hearing my side, are saying that I'm in the wrong and should allow them to meet him and be involved in his life. So now I am here wanting to know, am I the a-hole? And yeah, Ripe Stars, let me know what you think about this in the comments. Do you think OP is the a-hole or not? Comment number 1 said, not the a-hole. You made honest efforts to involve them only to be rebuffed. Screw them. Comment number 2, not the a-hole. You tried to involve them in the kids' lives and they didn't want to. Then, when all of a sudden they did, they didn't even bother making sure that you still lived at the same place or check their messages from you informing them that you moved. Just cut them completely out of your lives at this point. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I would totally agree with the comments here. I think OP would dodge a huge bullet if he just cuts these people out of his life. They are clearly toxic and don't have the best intentions in their mind. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, please check out my endless playlist, where you can find thousands of hours of content. In addition, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel to not miss any of my daily uploads. Thank you so much in advance, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.